An option set can have several options, but only one option can be primary. The primary option is typically the option that you are most likely to pursue. Think of it as the option that you like best and the one that you hope that your client will accept. In this movie, we'll look at some of the features of the primary option. So I'm in a file here called Primary, and I'm looking at a 3D view of a small office building lobby. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the Design Options dialog, and let's talk about what the primary option is in a little more detail. So here in the Design Options dialog, you can see that I have a single design option set called Balcony, and it has two options beneath it. Also notice that I'm currently editing the main model. Now, the glass panel railing is the primary option. We can see that here in parentheses. Primary is typically the option that you will see in all viewports when you're editing the main model. So even though I'm editing main model here, it's the primary that I see. The only time I would see the simple rectangular railing is if I select it and over here choose Edit Selected. Now you'll notice that temporarily it will display the selected option instead of the primary option, and it will confirm that up here by telling me that that's what I'm currently editing. Now when I click Finish Editing, it simply goes back to showing the primary option. Now, it's possible to override this display behavior, and we'll talk about that in a future movie. But right now, I'd like to look at creating another option, and then we'll come back in here and we'll talk about actually changing the primary option. So let's start by creating another option. Now, I could simply click New, but that would create an empty option, and I'd have to populate it with geometry. What I'm going to do instead is the new option I want to create is going to be a variation on the existing glass panel railing. So I'm going to click Glass Panel Railing here, and I want to duplicate it. Select it, rename it, and give it a name. So I've called this bowed balcony, and I'm going to explore what happens if I change the shape of that balcony. That means that it's not going to be just the railing anymore that's going to be part of this option. I'm also going to have to incorporate in this floor slab. Now, I want to be careful with that, so I'm going to close out of this dialog and select this floor slab, and I want to make sure that I add this to all of the options. If you just add it to the current option, what'll happen is it removes it from the main model, and then the other two options will not have a floor slab at all. So you need to be really careful with that when you're working with design options and kind of think through where you need all the different parts and pieces. So with the floor slab selected, I'll choose my Add to Set button. You can see that all three options are chosen, so they all need a floor slab. So I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to click OK. Now, in the one option that I'm working on, I want to change the shape of that floor slab. So I could go back to the Design Options dialog, select the bowed balcony, and choose Edit Selected, or I can just do it right here with the pop-up list. So I'm going to choose bowed balcony, and you'll see the model gray out again. And now, in addition to the railing, you can see that we also have a floor slab that's available for edit. Now, you can't edit the sketch of a floor slab in 3D, so I'm going to go to the Level 2 floor plan, zoom in a little bit, put my mouse near the edge, highlight, press Tab, and click to select the floor slab. I'll click the Edit Boundary button, and I'll draw what I want the new shape to look like. So I'm going to do a little short line here and here. I'm going to cancel out of there and select those lines and just make these numbers a little more rational. So I'm going to go with 6 feet and 6 feet. And then I will add an arc right here. And I'll do it, that looks pretty good. Let's do about 20 feet for a radius. And then I'll go to the split command, delete inner segment between here and here. So there's the shape I want for my floor slab. When I click Finish, it's going to ask me the usual questions. Do you want to attach the walls underneath? I've already done that, so I'm going to say no. Do you want to attach the exterior walls? I've already done that, so I'm going to say no. And there's the shape of my new floor. Notice that the railing does not yet follow that shape, so I need to edit that path as well. So I'll do Edit Path. I'm going to use the pick lines this time with a 2-inch offset. And I'll offset from the edges of the slab, split it right there, and clean it up. Finish that. I'm going to close this view. That takes me back to the 3D view, and you can see now our new design for the balcony railing. Looks pretty good. I'm going to come down here to the pop-up and change back to main model. Watch what's going to happen. notice that it went back to the original design. Well, the reason for that is quite simple. If I go back to the design options dialog, the original design is still listed as the primary. So when we're done editing our design option, it goes back to displaying primary. So what we want to look at now is we can actually change the primary option. So let's say that I'm now leaning towards this option. So I'm going to select my bowed balcony here and make it the primary. Now, when I do, you'll see it display there in the background, and occasionally you will get some warnings that appear. Now, the good news is, because of the small yellow tinted dialog down here in the lower corner, these are warnings that I can actually ignore. If the warning dialog came up in the middle of the screen and had the buttons on there, usually that means you can't ignore it. If you get the ignorable warnings, that's good because I can just click out of here, close it, and then if you want to read through this and see what the issues might be, it may be something you need to address, but it's talking about a relationship between the railing and the floor, but everything looks okay to me, so I'm really just going to ignore that. There doesn't seem to be any detriment to my design there. But I now have this new option that is now listed as the primary option, and so not only does it show automatically in this view, any view that I went into, like the level 2 floor plan, you can see is now going to show me the primary option. So no matter how many schemes you are considering, one of them is always likely to be your favorite. So the primary option is essentially your favorite option. So make sure that as you're working through your design options, you simply designate the one that you're leaning towards as your primary option, and then it will automatically display for you in all views in the project.